Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host for the show. It's almost football season, folks. In fact, a lot of people would say it is football season. The first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, will be played tonight. But for today's show, we're going to get into the defensive backfield groups of every NFL team. We're going to start with number 32, work our way up to number 16. And then next week, we're going to handle the top 15. We're going to find this very interesting. We got a lot of good information. You're going to hear a lot of names you know. You're going to hear some names that you don't know, but you will be hearing about during the season. Also, just let me quickly remind everybody, these rankings come from Pro Football Focus. I am not 100% in agreement with the rankings, but they're pretty close to what I would say they should be. So that being said, I'm ready to rock, Barry. What you got?
One of the things I want to mention, Ben, Pro Football Focus just came out with their power rankings for the teams going into the season, which, as you know, we use the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, which actually take the points that are actually produced in season. So we don't necessarily come up with a preseason power rankings. So it'll be interesting. But the information that we have put out so far, let's take a quick look back. Okay, we're doing defensive backs today. We did the D line, the O line, the linebackers, the running backs, the QBs, the tight ends. We did the wideouts yet?
Wideouts will be the last one.
Wideouts coming up. So my point being that for those of you who have been watching Ben and Barry on football and taking notes, you can put your own power ranking together now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes,
right there.
Take the rankings of every position group, put them together, and you can come up with your own ranking. You are absolutely correct.
And I'm wondering about you guys, like in fantasy. Now you have your own. Fantasy has its own way of ranking, but if you know the defensive backfields, like we're going to show it to you, you might want to change your defense to make the matchup a little bit more. Would I venture to say that's a? I don't want to give out no fantasy advice. I'm the Madden guy. You're the fantasy guy. You tell me. I'm asking.
No, but you're onto something there. And I would say on the surface, the first thing a fantasy person might want to take note of as we go through these rankings is the movement of players from one team to another. There's a lot of free agency movement as far as defensive backs are concerned. So that defense that you might have been thinking about, I might want to get those guys before my fantasy draft is over. You may want to rethink it. And there may be a defense that you feel is probably going to be better than you thought because of some moves that were made, maybe a nice rookie that got picked up or whatever. So yes, indeed, that is important. And especially when you talk about defensive backs, because defensive backs account for a lot of turnovers, which is how you get defensive points in fantasy. Fumble recoveries, interceptions, very big in fantasy. And D-backs and linebackers probably get the most of those, especially interceptions. So, yep, you're right.
Now, Ben, we had a bit of a discussion about some of the information that I was going to bring, which has more to do with contracts and things of that nature. And, the question is, would the average, fan be interested in that? And, I don't know. But I do know this much, and this is what's kind of ironic about this, because me being the Madden guy, the one part of Madden that I probably do least is the whole thing where you act as the GM and you trade contracts and you make trades and all of that. I'm about, the pass, the run. I'm playing that game hard, but I don't really get into that too much. But that part of it, the contracts, the free agency, I've already kind of said I need to look at that a little bit closer. Apparently, this is a big part of the game for a segment of Madden people, that I'm not really well in touch with. I'll admit, you know what I mean? Because I don't really do that. And that might be online. Some of that might be how, when they're having these tournaments, this guy has a team put together with his contracts. I don't know how far they go with that. But I do know this much. It is interesting, I always find, to be able to look at the contract, kind of where it is now. Is it a 1-year deal? Is it a multi-year deal? To see what kind of guaranteed money, to see whether or not this is a guy who's going to have to perform, because for the money they're paying him, if he don't, they're going to be regretting that they paid him that much. Like they did not get what they expected to get. There's some outsized contracts. And then some teams have invested a lot of money that you might not have thought, that they actually put that much money into their defensive backfield. I thought some of that was interesting. So I'm going to throw some of those nuggets out. Won't be as much a bigger part as what you're going to do, because you're going to actually talk about how well they play, how well they perform together as a unit, and a bit of a perspective on what you might expect, in the coming season. So, it's going to be a good mix of information, both on-field football information and another level of the type of information, the contract, because I know I told my daughter one time, I said, when you're trying to solve a mystery, you want to make sure you check 2 tracks. You want to look down the track of the money and sex. So somebody's dead all of a sudden. Check the money, check the sex. You'll usually come up with something in that realm.
I've heard the whole follow the money theme quite often. So, yeah, the sex part, I don't know. It depends.
Dude, let me tell you, how many times have you heard that, the guy just shot the boyfriend 5 times? You know what I mean? I follow the sex, as the other boyfriend, former boyfriend. So in any event, in this mystery, the money part is what we're really talking about. And I really think that has something to do with the motivations of the GM, the owner, those people. So let's get kicking it off here. Ben, it's always bittersweet to name the 32nd team, the last place team in any of these groupings. We didn't say it. Pro Football Focus said it. Who is it?